to use shortcuts. People sitting in offices and in boardrooms and in big hotels who think that they can change the constitution to the exclusion of the ordinary people in Kenya must learn from the Punguza Mizigo initiative that it is no longer possible in the Kenya of the 21st century. Kenyans are awake, and I will make sure that their voice is heard. No shortcuts, no roundabouts, no corners, no sijui mpango ya kando.
Okay, so that's the Deputy President. Of course, he's talking about these initiatives that we have seen so far. Punguza Mizigo, the Ugatuzi initiative by the governors, which we will shortly be looking at some of the proposals that there are. And they include creation of 3 more positions within the executive, that is for Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Ministers, 2 of them. And the ministers will be a maximum of 18, and they'll come from Parliament as well as outside Parliament. And there will be 22 Deputy Ministers as well as the Principal Secretaries who every county must be represented at the top. So there are all these initiatives. We are told that the Building Bridges initiative will be releasing its report later this month. According to the party leader of ODM, Raila Odinga, a few weeks ago, he said that there will come a report that may recommend reforms to the constitution, and therefore it will be coming through. So I don't know, from Team Embrace, because all of you belong there, and you made your proposals before the BBI team. So how best can we approach these constitutional review concerns if indeed there is a case for one?
First of all, we have to call out the Deputy President for hypocrisy, because his own foot soldiers have been on the forefront supporting Punguza Mizigo. They have supported it in his presence, and he has never called them out for supporting it.
Well, exactly.
Whether it's Ngirishi, whether it's Gladys Wanga, whether it's Oscar Sudi, whether it's who, they have all been in his presence. And if you look for the clips, you'll find them supporting Punguza Mizigo. Whether it's Alice, you know, they've all been supporting it, and he's never publicly called them out. And the greatest indication that his allies were leaning towards Punguza Mizigo is the passing of Punguza Mizigo in the Uasin Gishu County.
Yes. He might argue that he doesn't control the assembly there.
No, that's true, but then you know politics and how it goes. And that the issue is people will always follow the leader. And so if you add this plus his allies supporting Punguza Mizigo, then you know where his heart was. But when he saw that it was sinking, he now came out and said, oh, learn from Punguza Mizigo. What are we learning? Because the BBI process, the BBI could have just drafted a constitutional amendment like Ukuru Okot did, but they didn't. They went round to all the counties. They held 176 meetings with Kenyans, just listening to what they have to say. That is what it is. That is what public participation is about. And it shouldn't be that they have to talk to the Deputy President and his family for them to you know, and so on and so forth. So they have done the public participation. We are waiting for the report. We presented to the BBI as Embrace, and we said we want all these things that
were consistent with what Ugatuzi initiative by the Council of Governors is proposing.
Exactly.
And so the question to you, do you think it's actually necessary to review the Constitution? There have been several people who are saying that it's time, just like you're saying it's time to work, not to politic. There are people who have been saying it's time to implement the Constitution to its entirety before you can review it. Where do you stand in terms of those amendments?
I think first of all I want to refer to the clip you have just played, the Deputy President talking about Punguza Mizigo and saying that anybody who is thinking the direction of referendum, constitutional referendum, should learn from Punguza Mizigo. I think that is defeatism.
What do you mean? When
you're defeated on a course and you change course, you have to come up with a way of convincing people that you're still on track though you've lost. It's called defeatism. So what he's saying is actually a clear sign of defeatism. His brigade was loud and clear. They wanted Punguza Mizigo, including even in the lorries you are quoting, you know, those women outfit lorries. They've been saying they are. In fact, they even explained what Mizigo was then. I don't know whether they still want to continue with that kind of narrative that the Mizigo is this and they are unpacking the Mizigo. Now the Mizigo has become the burden, and now they have to run away from the burden. That for another day. I think for us to be able to execute our development agenda, there are fundamental issues that we have been carrying on our shoulders that we need to lay off. And the only way to lay off those fundamental burdens, historical issues that pertains to land in this country, historical political issues that always follows after general election in this country, issues of civil unrest and tribalism. I think the only way to unpack and lay off the burden is to review our constitution and accommodate new changes that are going to make sure that we have an all-inclusive government, any government that is formed.
What in your view is all-inclusive?
All-inclusive to me, I mean that let the losers of any election feel part and parcel of the national cake. Because in the past in this country, we have had a very bitter, jittery opposition. They lose and they lose it all. But in other democracies, people don't lose politically and also lose development-wise. We've had people like Wanga who in the last parliament was in the opposition throughout. And being in opposition throughout, she will tell you what it means when it comes to mashinani development. So sometimes, let me finish. Okay. So sometimes we have people who have lost it in the elections when it comes to presidential vote. They lose the political gain, but they also lose on development gain. Yet it is not the fault of the person who voted for that opposition giant. It is not their fault. They were just following their person. They are following their favorite, not knowing that that favorite is not going to become the president. So when we say inclusiveness, we want to make sure that if you are competing against me as a president, and I become the president, you and your people will lose politically, but you will not lose development-wise.
But losing development is just a political bad manners, and I say that because in 2013 and 2017, when your party or your coalition, I don't know when you joined it, Jubilee team, they were on this agenda that to implement the constitution as it is. They were opposed to any reviews that were proposed by the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy and later on National Super Alliance. Someone might think that you're just proposing these changes, you're accepting the changes just for convenience sake because the president who comes from the central region is retiring, so you require representation, and that has been backed up by what Governor Iguru of Kirinyaga was saying, that we will need someone as a region to go to when we have issues of concern of development. Isn't it selfish for the central region to now have dalliance with reviews of the constitution?
Sam, I'll answer you without a blink that politics is local. Right?
Isn't that selfish?
Of course, it is. For me as a leader, I must fight for my people. And this, in fact, that is the reason why we actually need a new constitution. We need to change the constitution. Because if I am that aggressive to fight for my people, and she's not aggressive to fight for her people, what happens? He who or she who is aggressive takes it home, takes it all. So that is why we need to have a clear guideline on who is, for example, who is the official leader of opposition, and what are the benefits of members of that team. What do they and what is it that they are supposed to share from the national cake? Right. What is their opportunities? Because this issue of tumeingia na tumefunga mlango, sisi tumeingia, tumewin presidential election, tumeingia na tumefunga mlango. That is what is making people riot. Like you can see, you remember the T-beams and the TRRs these guys gave us in the streets before we settled. And let me tell you, to be very honest, if those T-beams and TRRs were continuing, nothing would have happened in this country in terms of development. All right. So to make sure that the TRR doesn't go out in the streets, T-beam goes out in the street after election, we need to review the constitution so that we can create their opportunities within the same government. So that you clearly know, I am not the president, but I have 1, 2, 3 that I was working for. So even as you fight very hard, you know very well. It's like you, when you're in class, you know you obviously not become #1 in that class, but you know very well, you will be part and parcel of that class. If that class has a mini grade of the winning class in the national outfit, you know very well you have your position from the word go. All right.
Let me bring in Senator Sylvia Kasanga to this conversation. Even as a Wiper individual, number one, where do you stand? Where does Wiper stand, given that we have now the Ugatuzi as well, we have the BBI, and we have the Punguza as well? Where does Wiper stand in this conversation?
I've said this before here, Zinzi and Sam. And you know me, I don't like politics very much, yeah? But I've made it very clear. Yes. Our position has always been to support BBI. Why? Because they have done such a wide consultation, and that's why I think last time when I was here and I said Punguza Mizigo has not done public participation, and I remember I think somebody called in and said they have done, I don't know how they did,
the collection of signatures.
The collection of signatures. BBI has gone around, has spoken to Kenyans, has opened the space for the conversation to happen, and now they're going to retreat and do a report. I am happy to sit and continue with my development agenda as I wait for that report and the recommendations that it is going to bring. Because their agenda, their theme is the correct theme for Kenyans.
All right, so
yes.
Wiper BBI.
Yes.
My next question to you, Senator, you know, if Raila is for BBI, he's calling for a referendum. Ruto on the other side, our DP says no BBI, no referendum. In fact, he's even termed them as boardroom conversations. At the end of the day, whatever the two leaders are sort of doing, is it genuinely for the hearts of the voters, the Kenyan voters, or is it for the top cream political class in Kenya? Because those positions they are creating for themselves. So come 2022, or whether we do decide to go for a referendum before that, will this be for Kenyans or it's just for our...
I can only speak on in support of the BBI,
okay,
and where it was born from. When the handshake came together, it was clear there was something that needed to be done. It is clear, yes, we have tested our new constitution, but there is clearly still some gaps that are still there, and they need to be looked into.
But our constitution is barely, what, 10
yes,
years old?
Barely 10 years, but we can say that yes, we have identified that there is need to do more. The electoral reforms, for instance. She's talking about how, you know, we get the opposition gets completely locked out. You cannot run a country where half the population is unhappy. So there's need to open up that space.
Does a law reform mean us having to change our constitution? Can we not change a few things by just changing the laws?
No. It's referendum just means you're tweaking. You're tweaking what is there. Yeah, you're picking a certain aspect and tweaking it by law, by referendum. We are not saying it's a whole overhaul of the constitution. No. We are saying we are tweaking a couple of things to answer some of these questions.
We have just a minute to the end of the show, and I want to ask you this question. So she clearly tells you that politics is local, and the fact of the matter is that they have to secure the interest of their region. So you are a politician. You've been in the opposition, let me say, for the past, since 2013 until now. You've seen the sort of leadership there has been in this country. There's even a time that the president said, tutaendelea kula nyama wakimeza mate. And
such a politician. Oh my goodness.
So how well does it sit with you? How do you trust the agenda they have? You're together in team embrace, you're together in supporting BBI, yet you know clearly politics is local for them.
Yeah, and politics is local for everyone. I mean, at the end of the day, politics is local for everyone. It doesn't matter what we do at the national level. But then, at the national level and within the national space, and you're asking about, you know, the referendum and all these issues, there are aspects of the Constitution that we must amend through a referendum, and those were secured in the 2010 Constitution, because we knew that if we leave them to just amendment by Parliament, say for example, then Kenyans would be vulnerable, and that includes the structure of government. So if we look at the current structure of government, and we experimented it the last 5 years, and what happened in those last 5 years was we had a president and a deputy president. And then what we saw as a country was it just became a government of two communities, you know, and this is where we sat back and wondered, is this where we want to go? Then the level of responsibility for even cabinet secretaries and so on to Parliament, which is the representatives of the people, also was minimized. So some of the things we're looking at is, if we have an expanded executive, and I know some people are saying, oh, so then you will have 5 communities, what about, you know, what about the others? No, that is not, I mean, the conversation should be around accommodation of broader thoughts and broader ideas into the executive. Because you can, if you just have 1 or 2, then it becomes a problem. But if you have more ideas, then there will be people who say, for sure, if we are here, we must consider so-and-so, we must consider that community, we must consider that area. So that convergence of more ideas, I think, is useful. So at the end of the day, we also want a system whereby there is more responsibility. There's more responsibility by cabinet secretaries to the or by ministers to the elected body, which is Parliament. And that is why we are saying in the new dispensation we want these people to be a part of Parliament, so that there's higher accountability, like we have seen in the past. Previously we had the Prime Minister's question time, where questions would be raised and they would be answered pronto, you know, they would be answered right there and then. Right now, the way we are, there's nobody answering.
CSS to committees, it doesn't yield as much success?
No, it doesn't yield as much success. Why? Because a committee committee has only maybe 10 members or 9, total is 19 members. At any given time, you probably have 10 members attending. So the matter does not get the public attention that it deserves. But if you have a prime minister in the house responding to questions in the full glare of the public, you know, because public also wants to know that what is it that our members are doing for us. And that is why you find many people are saying, what are these members doing? Are they asking these questions? Because once a question is asked and answered in the committee, the public never even gets to know that the questions were asked and answered.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we wind up and at the same time listen to what Agalano Mushoba has to say as far as what today is. So you can text us your views on 22422, Twitter at Citizen TV Kenya. We'll be sure to sample some of your feedback in the next minute.